make your points so well.
Really cool. They look like vanilla ice cream, and I can't reach it.
What do they smell like?
Not vanilla ice cream.
Well, what do they smell like?
They tickle. I don't smell anything, but they tickle. I don't smell anything. That's really anticlimactic coming from the ice cream flower.
I really just thought that I had it this whole time and just didn't know how to use it. And sometimes I still even like to think that, just because it's so weird to not have a sense of smell. Have you ever considered an audience that has no sense of smell?
No. Because I didn't know there were people who couldn't smell until I met you. I'm a horrible, sheltered person whose worst fear in life was going blind.
What do they smell like?
It reminds me of salt and caramel type pretzel candy, kind of like gelato or chocolate covered pretzels.
So, as a writer, do you have any trouble trying to figure out how to appeal to all five senses, especially smell?
Yes, because a lot of it is it's like with sights and touch and everything, you can describe it a lot easier because than you can with smell, because with smell, you kind of are depending on your reader to have, if not smelled what you're describing, smelled something like it that they can relate to. It's like you kind of put the ideas in their head, but you're really, really hoping that they know what you're talking about, because otherwise there's no real way to make it clear.
My experience in writing, the hardest thing to capture in words is sight-based things, because that's automatically what you're writing, and what you see is what the reader should technically see. Smell and sound and touch, I guess, are the easiest ones to write down, because there's so many like universal words that you think of, like
Then, you've realized that there's people who don't have it. Can you describe to me what all of this smells like?
Well, there's a lot of the smell of grease, which is like to be expected because that's what most of it's cooked in.
What does grease smell like?
Grease smells like it smells like that slime you get on your skin from being around all day. Like when you go to sleep, sometimes you'll wake up with that sheen. Grease smells like everything just wet and raw that you could possibly imagine when you think about fast food. Grease is it's just very wet and hot and thick.
Smelling?
Yes. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Like, I don't smell things like, oh, this smells like this. It's like I feel it.
the smell of autumn leaves that fell on the ground, not like in trees, and it's a musty kind of smell, like combination of dirt and like the trees themselves, which didn't really touch the ground until like the leaves fall. So it's a small smell of dirt and just the feeling that autumn's coming, and the cold air. I think that brings it out a lot too. So that's one of my favorite smells.
I mean, everybody around me will just have been talking about how weird this one thing smelled, or how much the smell reminded them of something else, and it was just something that I could never understand.
At the beach, you're gonna get that salty smell that's very, characteristic of the beach.
With me, smell is a very memory-based thing, and I think it might be for a lot of people.
I mean, smell has this ability that allows people to conjure up memories or have this sort of connection that they relate to people and familiarity, and you don't really think about that until you start to look into what exactly smell does and how exactly it affects your life.
Because I remember I wasn't a big coffee drinker until I met that one over there. My friend and former roommate, Julia. And on the first day of class, she made a pot of coffee, and the smell of it was just so overpowering. It was everywhere, and it woke me up out of a dead sleep. And it's heavy. It's a very heavy smell, which is, why I like it. I like smells that just, overpower me in a way, Takes me somewhere else, like my own memories. So.
But I have nothing to relate it to anything. I can't sit there and know what any of these words mean. I have no point of reference.
I'm using words that I've heard, 1,000 times before. Like musky, dank, soft, things like that. I think we automatically have this association. Oh, well, this is supposed to smell like this, that sort of thing. So it's a universal language, and trying to particularly describe smell specifically like that, I think. It's interesting.
I ask what the coffee smells like, and I get these weird answers that just make no sense, like warm and bitter and sweet. I can kind of relate those. I've always had trouble understanding how warm can be a sense of smell when it's a temperature thing. But I've just realized that, smell is this entire experience.
Yeah. For me at least, I don't know what it's like for other people that can smell, but for me, I like smells that can just sit with you for a while and just make you think about things that you experienced in life, or
it's easier, to think about what it's like to not be able to see or to not have a sense of hearing. I mean, those are the two most known disabilities. I think instead of being accused of whining that we just can't have a sense of smell, or that we can't understand what everybody else is talking about when they say that they can smell the rain coming, or that things smell fresh or bitter or wispy and stale and floral or spicy, you also have to think about the way that it affects everything else that we do in life. And it's frustrating. Above all else, I think it's hitting me is it's frustrating, because you tell someone you have no sense of smell, and first they don't believe you because it's so out there. It's just, you have no sense of smell, but we have to test you now, which is ridiculous, because if a blind person tells you you're blind, then it's terrible to try and test them. Or if a deaf person, you don't go up and say, I need to test this because I don't believe it. But all of my life I've gotten tests because nobody believes that I was born without a sense of smell. And as much as I tried to pretend or to hope that it was just because I simply just hadn't learned how to use my nose yet, I think it's really disrespectful to not accept that when I say I have no sense of smell, people don't believe me.